Daf Yomi, Tractate Avodah Zarah, page 73. A, top of the page, with the words Ika Da'amri. Ika Da'amri, Rabba Bar Rav Huna Gufe Ishti Beknish Kenin. There are those who say that Rabba Bar Rav Huna himself drank from a Kenish Kanin. And new Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Yain Nesach Asravos and Mechol Shuhu. Yain b'yain b'mayim b'mayim b'chol shehu. Yain b'mayim b'mayim b'yain b'nosin tam. Wine used for a libation is forbidden, and any amount of it renders other wine forbidden if they are mixed together. Wine used for a libation that became mixed with wine, or water that was used for an idolatrous libation that became mixed with ordinary water, renders the mixture forbidden with any amount of the forbidden wine or water. But wine used for a libation that became mixed with water, or water used for a libation that became mixed with wine, renders the mixture forbidden only if the forbidden liquid is sufficient to impart flavor to the mixture, meaning for the wine to flavor the water, or for the water to dilute the wine to an extent that can be tasted. Zehakla, min b'mino b'mashihu v'shelo b'mino b'nosin tam. This is a principle. A substance in contact with the same type of substance renders the mixture forbidden with any amount of the forbidden substance, but a substance in contact with a different type of substance renders a mixture forbidden only in a case where it imparts flavor to it. And now for the that was the Mishnah. Now for the Talmud. Ki asar adimi amrav Yochanan ha'me'are yain nesach michavis labo afilu kol hayom kulo rishon batal. When Rav Dimi came from Eretz Israel to Babylonia, he reported that Rabbi Yochanan says, in the case of one who pours wine used for a libation from a barrel into a wine cistern, even if he does this all day long, the forbidden wine is nullified little by little upon contact with the wine in the cistern, and the wine is consequently permitted. Tanan, yain nesach asur ve'oser v'chol shehu. My love, dikad nafilas isura legoy hetero lo. Dikad nafil hetera legoy isura. The Gemara raises an objection to the halacha reported by Rav Dimi from that which we learned in the Mishnah. Wine used for a libation is forbidden, and any amount of it renders other wine forbidden. What, is it not referring to a case where the forbidden substance fell into the permitted substance, as in the case of Rav Dimi's statement? The Gemara rejects this. No, is referring to a case where the permitted substance fell into the forbidden substance. Tashiba Yain b'mayim v'nosin tam. My love dafka nafil chamra di sura l'maya d'hetera lo dika nafil chamra d'hetera l'maya di sura. The Gemara suggests, coming here, a further objection to the halacha reported by Rav Dimi from the continuation of the Mishnah. Wine that became mixed with water renders the mixture forbidden if it is sufficient to impart flavor to it. What, is it not referring to a case where forbidden wine fell into permitted water, and contrary to Rav Dini's statement, the wine is not nullified, but instead renders the mixture forbidden the moment there is a sufficient amount of it to impart flavor? The Gemara answers no, is referring to a case where permitted wine fell into forbidden water. As long as the water influences the flavor of the wine, it is forbidden. Umidresha b'maydi surah sefer nami b'maydi surah b'ktani sefer mayim b'yayin b'nosin tam amar lecha Rav Dimi kula masnisin heter l'goy surah b'reisha dekana fil chabra d'hetera b'maydi surah sefer the Gemara challenges them from the fact that the first clause is referring to forbidden water. By inference, the latter clause also dealing with forbidden water, and the latter clause teaches water that became mixed with wine renders the mixture forbidden in a case where it imparts flavor to it. The Gemara answers that Rabbi Yomi could have said to you, the entire mission is dealing with permitted substances falling into forbidden substances, and the first clause is dealing with the case where permitted wine fell into forbidden water, while the latter clause is dealing with the case where permitted water fell into forbidden wine. Kiyasar Rabbi Yosef Amar Rabbi Yochanan Amar Yein Nesach Mitzirur Katan Levo Afilu Kol Hayab Kula Rishon Batel Dafka Tzartzur Katan Delo Nafish Amudeh Aval Chavit Nafish Amudeh Lo. When Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef came from Eretz Yisrael to Babylonia, he reported that Rabbi Yochanan says, in the case of one who pours wine used for libation from a small canteen into a wine cistern, even if he did so all day long, the forbidden wine is nullified little by little in the permitted wine. And this applies specifically to a small canteen whose stream is not significant. But if one pours wine from a barrel whose stream is significant, this does not apply. Kiyas Ravin Amar Yochanan Yain Nesach Shinaf on the boat. V'nazan Sham Kiton Shel Mayim Oyin Es Heter Hilu Eino V'Hishar Mayim Ravin Alav Matina. So when Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael to Babylonia, he said that Rabbi Yochanan says, in the case of wine used for a libation that fell into a wine cistern, and where a pitcher of water also fell there, one considers the permitted wine as though it is non-existent, and it is not rendered forbidden by the wine used for a libation. And with regard to the rest, meaning the wine used for a libation, the volume of the wine is greater than the volume of the wine and nullifies it. Kiyasar Shmuel Yehuda Amar Yochanan Lo Yisham Ela Shnafal Kiton Shel Mayim Techila Avolo Nafal Shem Kiton Shel Mayim Techila Matzamin Esbina V'nei Or. Let's see here. When Shmuel Bar Yehuda came from Israel, he said that Rabbi Yochanan says the sages taught this only with regard to a case where the pitcher of water fell in first. But if the pitcher of water did not fall in first, the wine used for a libation has found its own type, meaning the wine in the cistern has been awakened. In other words, the wine used for a libation renders the wine in the cistern forbidden, causing the volume of the wine that is forbidden to become larger, and the water that subsequently falls in is not sufficient to nullify all the wine. Ikad demasni la amasnisin yen v'yen kolshu amar Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda amar Rav Yochanan lo shanu ela shelo nafal sham kiton shel mayim ava nafal sham kiton shel mayim ro'in es ha'eter ki'ilu eino v'ashan mayim ravino la matero. So the Gemara comments there are those who teach this halach with regard to the Mishnah, which states that wine used for a libation that became mixed with permitted wine renders it forbidden with any amount. Shmuel Bar Yehuda says that Rabbi Yochanan says that the Mishnah taught this only with regard to a case where a pitcher of water did not also fall into the permitted wine, but if a pitcher of water fell there, one considers the permitted wine as though it is non-existent, and it is not rendered forbidden by the wine used for a libation. And with regard to the rest, meaning the wine used for a libation, the volume of the water is greater than the volume of the wine and nullifies it. Ma'ika bein demasnisin la amasnisin bein demasni la adravin my demasni la amasnisin loy by techila or my demasni la adravin by techila. The Gemara asks, what difference is there between the one who teaches this about the Mishnah and the one who teaches it about the statement of Ravin? The Gemara explains, the one who teaches it about the Mishnah does not need for the pitcher of the water to have fallen in first. In any event, the water nullifies the forbidden wine. But the one who teaches it about the statement of Ravin adds to Ravin's statement, and so he needs the pitcher of water to have fallen in first. Itmar, we learn, it was stated that in a case of wine used for a libation that fell into a wine cistern, and where a pitcher of water also fell in there. And now we turn to the top of 73b with the words Amar Chizkiah to return after the break. Amar Chizkiah higdilu beisu aso higdilu be'ezamuto. What does he say? Chizkiah says that the volume of water and the wine was increased by the forbidden wine, meaning the forbidden wine fell in last, the mixture is forbidden, because the forbidden wine renders the permitted wine forbidden by the principle of a substance in contact with the same type of substance, and the water does not nullify the forbidden wine. But if the volume of the water and the forbidden wine was increased by the permitted wine, meaning there was a mixture of wine used for libation and water, and the wine used for libation was nullified by the water, and then the permitted wine fell into the mixture. In such a case, the permitted wine is not rendered forbidden by the forbidden wine that had already been nullified, and so the entire mixture is permitted. If Rabbi Yochanan Amar, afilu higdilu mi'isul mutar. Rabbi Yochanan says, even if the volume of the permitted wine and the water was increased by the forbidden wine, the mixture is permitted. Amar le Rabbi Yirmiyah Zarah, le Chizkiah Rabbi Yochanan plukta Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbanan kamiflegi. Rabbi Yirmiyah said to Rabbi Zarah, shall we say that Chizkiah and Rabbi Yochanan disagree with regard to the issue that is the subject of the dispute between Rabbi Eliezer and the rabbis? It's non. Se'ol shel chulin v'shel truma shenaflu l'zoch ha'isa lo bazeh kedei lechametz ve'lo bazeh kedei lechametz v'nitztarfu v'chimtzu. As we learned in a Mishnah, Orla 2:11, in the case of non-sacred leaven and truma leaven that fell into a non-sacred batch of dough, and neither is this one alone potent enough to cause the dough to become leavened, nor is that one alone potent enough to cause the dough to become leavened, and they combined and caused the dough to become leavened. There is a dispute as to whether this dough has the status of truma, and is therefore forbidden to non-priests or non-sacred bread. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Achar acharon ani ba, Chachamim אומרים, בין שנפל איסו בתחילה בין בסוף אינו אסור עד שיהיה בו כדי להחמיץ. Rabbi Eliezer says, I follow the final element that fell into the dough. If the truma fell in last, the dough is forbidden to non-priests. And the rabbis say, whether the forbidden item, meaning the truma, fell in first or whether it fell in last, the dough is not forbidden unless there's enough of the forbidden leaven alone to cause the dough to become leavened. Apparently, Chizkiah holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer that if the forbidden substance is mixed at last, the mixture is rendered forbidden, and Rabbi Yochanan holds in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis that if the amount of the forbidden substance is not sufficient in of itself to render the mixture forbidden, the mixture is permitted. V'tizbira. V'amar Rabbi Yehoshua shekadam b'silek esizor, aval lo kadam b'silek esizor is asur Chizkiah the Amar Kiman. The Gemara responds, and how can you understand that this is the same dispute? But doesn't Abaye say, Rabbi Eliezer taught that the mixture is permitted when the permitted leaven fell in last, only in the case when the one first removed the forbidden leaven before the permitted leaven fell into the dough and made it rise? But if one did not first remove the forbidden leaven, the dough is forbidden even if the permitted leaven fell in last. According to Abaye's interpretation, In accordance with whose opinion does Chizkiah state his ruling with regard to a mixture of forbidden wine, permitted wine, and permitted water? That is, the forbidden wine was mixed with in the last mixture is forbidden. According to the rabbis, the mixture should be permitted in any event, as there is not enough forbidden wine to render the mixture forbidden. And according to Rabbi Eliezer, even if the permitted wine was mixed in last, the mixture should be forbidden, as the forbidden wine was not removed. Ela hachaberoin kamifilgi Chizkiah lesle roin Rabbi Yochanan isle. Rather, here Chizkiah and Rabbi Yochanan disagree concerning the principle that with regard to mixture of forbidden substance and a permitted substance of the same type, and a permitted substance in a different type, one considers the permitted substance of the same type as though it were non-existent, so that the substance of the other type can nullify the forbidden substance. Chizkiah is not of the opinion that one considers it as though it were non-existent, whereas Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion that one considers it as though it were non-existent. And so he maintains that in any event, the water nullifies the forbidden wine, and the permitted wine in the mixture is disregarded. Miaslei Rabbi Yochanan roin bai b'nei Rav Asi Rabbi Yochanan shnei kosos echad shelchul echad shel truma mazgin ve'ervon ze v'ze mahu ve'lo pashat lei. The Gemara asks, and is Rabbi Yochanan of the opinion okay. The Gemara asks, and is Rabbi Yochanan of the opinion that one considers the permitted substance of the same type as though it were non-existent? But then Rabbi Asi asked Rabbi Yochanan the following question: if one had 2 cups of wine, one non-sacred and one of truma, and he diluted them with water and mixed them together, and there is sufficient water in each of the cups to nullify the truma wine, what's the halacha? Is the non-sacred wine, which is the same type of substance as the truma wine, considered to be non-existent, and the water in the mixture nullifies the truma wine, or does the truma wine render the non-sacred wine forbidden, and the water in both cups is insufficient to nullify the combined wine? Rabbi Yochanan did not resolve the dilemma for him, indicating that he did not have a set opinion on the matter. Itmar nami. Amar Rabbi Ami, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Rabbi Asi, Amar Yochanan shnei kosot, echad shel chulin, ve'echad shel truma, umazgin ve'echad zeh ro'in es heter ki'ilu eino v'hashar ma'im ravin alav matelin oso. The Gemara answers initially he did not resolve the dilemma for him, but ultimately he resolved it for him. That permitted the substance of the same type is considered as though it were non-existent. The permitted substance of the same type is considered as though it was non-existent. It was also stated that this was Rabbi Yochanan's ultimate opinion, and Rabbi Ami says that Rabbi Yochanan says, and some say that it's Rabbi Asi who says, Rabbi Yochanan says, if one had 2 cups of wine, one sacred and one of truma, and he diluted them with water and mixed them together, and there is sufficient water in each of the cups to nullify the truma wine, one considers the permitted wine as though it were non-existent, and as for the rest, the truma wine, the volume of it, the water is greater than the volume of the wine and nullifies it. Ze'aklal. This is the principle. Min b'mino b'mashu, shlo b'mino b'nosintam. A substance in contact with the same type of substance renders the mixture forbidden with any amount of the forbidden substance, but a substance in contact with a different type of substance renders the mixture forbidden only in the case where it imparts flavor to it. Okay. Rav Shmuel Damar Tavayu Kol Yisur Shabbatorah b'minon b'mashu shelo b'mino b'nosintam. The Gemara presents an Amoraic dispute with regard to this principle. Rav and Shmuel both say, with regard to any food forbidden by the Torah that becomes mixed with permitted food, if the permitted food is of its own type, then even any amount of the forbidden substance renders the entire mixture forbidden. If the forbidden food is mixed with another type of substance, then the mixture becomes forbidden, only in the case where there is enough of the forbidden food to impart flavor to the mixture. Zeklal, this is the principle. According to Rav and Shmuel, what is added by the statement in this Mishnah, this is the principle. This is stated to include any food forbidden by the Torah, and not only wine used for libation. Rabbi Yochanan v'Reish Lakish. Davar Tevaya Kol Yisum Shebetoyra Beim Mina Beim Shim Minan B'Nesin Tam Chutz Mivatel Mitevel V'Yayin Esach Minan B'Mashu Shalom Minan B'Nesin Tam Zeklal That's Mitevel. Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish both say, with regard to any food forbidden by the Torah that falls into a mixture, whether of its own type of food or another type of food, the mixture is forbidden in the case where there's enough of the forbidden item to impart flavor to the mixture. This is the halacha except for the cases of untithed produce and wine used for libation, which render mixture with their own type of food forbidden in any case where any amount of the forbidden food was mixed with the permitted food. But if they mixed with another type of substance, the mixture is forbidden only in a case where it imparts flavor to it. And according to this opinion, the statement in the Mishnah, this is the principle, is stated to include the case of untithed produce, which is not mentioned in the Mishnah explicitly. Tanakh the Rav Shmuel, Tanakh the Rabbi Yochanan the Reish Lakish. It is taught in a brayta in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel, and it is taught in another brayta in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan the Reish Lakish. Tanakh the Rabbi Shmuel called the Gemara elaborates. It is taught in a brayta in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel with regard to any food forbidden by the Torah that becomes mixed with permitted food in the case where the permitted food is of its own type, and then even any amount of the forbidden substance renders the entire mixture forbidden. But in a case where the forbidden food was mixed with another type of substance, then the mixture becomes forbidden only in the case where there is enough of the forbidden item to impart flavor to the mixture. Tanya goes to the Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish calls Tam Chutz Mitevel V'Yayin Esach Minan B'Mashu Shelo Minan. Tam is taught in another brayta in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish with regard to any food forbidden by the Torah that falls into a mixture, whether it of its own type or food of another type of food. The mixture is forbidden in a case where there is enough of the forbidden food to impart flavor to the mixture. This is the halacha except for the cases of untithed produce and wine used for libation, which render a mixture with their own type of food forbidden in a case where any amount of the forbidden food was mixed with the permitted food. But if they are mixed with another type of substance, the mixture is forbidden only in a case where they impart flavor to it. Bishlema yayin nesach mishum chumra de Zarah el tevel my time. The Gemara asks, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, why are untithed produce and wine used for libation treated more stringently than other forbidden foods? Granted, wine used for libation is treated stringently due to the severity of idol worship. With regard to untithed produce, what is the reason that any amount of it is mixed with permitted food of its own type renders the mixture forbidden? Amru tevel oser b'kol shehu b'mino shelo b'mino b'nosein tam. The Gemara answers, just as it assumes its permitted status, so it assumes its forbidden status. As Shmuel says, even 1 grain of wheat given as truma exempts the entire heap of grain from the obligations of truma, since any amount of truma given renders the entire heap of produce permitted. Any amount of untithed produce also renders the entire mixture forbidden. And this is also taught in a brayta. With regard to what situation did the sages say that any amount of untithed produce renders a mixture forbidden, is with regard to untithed produce that becomes mixed with its own type. But with regard to untithed produce that becomes mixed with another type, the mixture is forbidden only in the case where the untithed produce imparts flavor to it.